Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today I want to revisit Casio. Now every time I go online, generally I hear the same things over and over again about Casio.
It's the classic DW50.
This is the quintessential.
It might be worth
Casio
splurging on this
digital watch,
Casio
really.
World
They've been
Tournament.
making.
Okay, stop. There's a couple of points that mean I don't have the typical viewpoint, let's say, of your average watch collector. I don't like positive displays, and that is because they remind me of my calculators in secondary school doing exams. It just doesn't seem very nice. I much prefer negative displays, although obviously they come with their own flaws. And secondly, I hate resin straps. I've used G-Shocks for work and I've had them covered in oil and grease and they are fantastic, but they're a tool for me, and the watches in their resin strap form remind me of work, which is fine when I'm at work, but when I'm away from it I like to have downtime. And by the same logic, I don't wear steel toe cap boots or a high-vis jacket when I'm not working either. So what I'm always looking for is a great negative display or an analog display, and something that's ideally full metal. Now I tried the Oceanus and it came close, but it didn't quite hit all the right spots. So today, having owned it for quite a while, I want to show you my favourite Casio and my favourite G-Shock. Let's get into it. Yes, I know, it's gold. So that might be an instant turn off, or you might quite like it in the way that I do. But don't worry, they do make a stainless steel version with a positive display if the gold doesn't capture your attention in the way that it does for me. So some basic specs on this: it's 43.5mm wide, it's 49.3mm lug to lug. But the thing with that is that the first links do not fully articulate. They do curve downwards, but not all the way, so it's a little bit misleading. I'll show you it on my 17.5cm wrist. It fits really nicely. I think you'd get away with a somewhat smaller wrist, but perhaps much smaller wrists might struggle. It's 12.9mm thick, and it weighs 150 grams. So despite being a larger watch, it's actually pretty comfortable on a day-to-day basis. So it is of course a G-Shock. That means the legendary shock resistance is present. It's 200 meters water resistance, which is great for me who's never taking it more than a splash in a swimming pool. This one is solar, which I really like. It's one of the things I think is great if you don't need to pull the back off. I'm a big fan of solar G-Shocks, so no battery changes, or at least not for a long time. I think the cells typically last anywhere from 10 to 20 years. This watch has a backlight, and a very good one. It's got the usual features you'd expect: the world time, the alarm, the stopwatch, and the countdown. And you can sync it with the atomic clock, or you can use the app on Bluetooth. Now, it's not a smartwatch, so you don't need to use the app. If you want to see how the app works, please reference my Oceanus video. I'll go through the whole thing there. It's exactly the same app on this one. I use the app because I like to keep an eye on the battery power. It gives me an idea when I need to wear it because I've got a larger collection and it doesn't sit in the sun day to day. But like I said, you don't have to. You can sync it up with the atomic clock, or you can just set it and forget it, and you've got plus minus 15 seconds per month with no syncing, no Bluetooth and no atomic clock. The gold on this watch works for me because it is a fantastic shade of gold. It's polished on the watch head and brushed on the bracelet. So in terms of the gold, it is a really nice shade. It's very nicely finished across the watch. The head of the watch is a mixture of polished and then brushed on the bezel. And to be honest, it's really nicely done. With PVD coating, you never get the ultimate shine and reflection you will do without a coating, but it's as good as I've seen for a gold coated piece. Something to note on the bracelet, which is excellent, and I wish more companies could do this, is there is no pin and collar, there's no screw pins. It's spring bars between every single link. So it's so easy to size the bracelet. I wish more companies would do this. And there is 4 holes of micro adjustment on this as well, so you'll get a comfortable fit. And although there's no on-the-fly adjustment, I haven't found it an issue with this particular watch. I hope you're enjoying today's video. Now I know my outlook on Casio won't necessarily match a lot of you guys, but at the very least I hope you're enjoying the opportunity to see some nice shots of a cool watch. If you are enjoying the video today, please don't hesitate to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and most importantly hit the bell notification icon just down there somewhere, otherwise you'll never see when I'll upload anyway. Thank you so much, back to the video, cheers. Case back is just a spec list. It's DLC coated in black to protect against scratches, which is a nice touch, but to be honest, being that it's a solar watch, you shouldn't have to unscrew the case back very often at all. So I'll talk to you about some pros with the watch. Ultimately, the most important thing for me, aside from ticking off everything I want in a premium digital watch, it looks and feels special. It is hand assembled in Casio's premium line in Japan, and it feels that way. It feels fantastic, it's so nicely finished, it's rock solid. I thoroughly enjoy looking at the watch on the wrist, and I thoroughly enjoy holding the watch in my hand. Other notable points, I mean, the gold coating is extremely tough, and this is not an easy thing to achieve. So I don't know what specifically Casio have done with this. It just says that it's ion plated on their website, but I can tell you now, I have scratched this watch and I have dented this watch. It took a particularly hard knock on the bezel, and the metal has dented, but the gold coating has gone with it. So that's really great to see, and I felt confident having seen Random Rob's video on one of these a little while back. He'd had the same experience, and that was one of the things that prompted me to buy it in the first place. I felt confident that the gold coating was going to be good. Now, I'm going to put the negative display as a positive. Let me explain. Okay, it is a lot less legible than your typical positive display, I get that. But if you're like me and you really like negative displays, I've had so many rubbish ones. Even the last Casio, the Rag & Bone, which I had, that was almost illegible in every light. So this is the best negative display I've ever had. It still lags behind the positive display, so if you're not a fan, you're still not going to be a fan. But for me, it's a positive that it's easily legible in all daylight situations without needing the backlight. So it must be pretty clear that I hold this watch in very high regard. But there is still some negatives that, even though I think so much about this watch, I have to point out. First of all, it is quite pricey. Yes, you are paying for something that is hand assembled in Japan. That is not going to be cheap. It's also going to give you everything you want. It's got the solar, it's got the multi-band, and it's finished to an exceptional level. But in Canadian dollars, it's 800 at retail, and I think even with all of this considered, that is a little bit steep. I waited and waited and waited, and I checked monthly to try and find one discounted, and I did eventually find one, and I ended up paying just over 500 Canadian dollars. I'll put the prices up in US for the retail price and what I paid. So I think it's worth to wait out for a discount if you're looking at buying one of these, either the gold or the silver. I think if you can get close to a couple of $100 off, you're doing pretty well with this. The next thing is I don't like the limited articulation on the first link. It's a bit of a shame, like I said. For smaller wrists, it could fit really nicely, like many G-Shocks do. It's one of the great things about a lot of the G-Shock range, and it's just completely wiped out in this watch by having that limited articulation. And the other thing is that nothing ever feels that premium with a pressed outer clasp, especially not in the modern era. So a milled outer clasp, come on Casio, it's a small upgrade, but you're going to be pushing a little bit closer to that 800 Canadian dollar asking price if you put one on. So I think that concludes my search for the perfect Casio with my very specific requirements. Something I should add in as part of the conclusion is that yes, you could go out and buy a cheaper Casio watch and buy one of the kits where you can apply a gold bracelet and a gold outer case if you like. Now I can't tell you what's going to be the best value and the best option for you, but for me personally, having the real thing and having something that is hand assembled by Casio's finest technicians in Japan does really mean something. Let me know in the comments what you think about Casio. What is your favorite Casio? What's the watch from them that you just love? I know people are a little bit Marmite on the Full Metal series, so keen to hear your thoughts as well on that. I try to reply to as many comments as I can. I thank you so much for watching, and of course, like always, I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Cheers.